All right, so fundraising, this was not meant to, I'm not going to talk about best strategies to fundraise, but talking about important practices from the treasurer's response to fundraising. We'll eventually get to fundraising one day, but not today. So best practices for in-person events, and Lita did a great job talking about it. The receipt process, two-person counts, that locked money bag, and Paulette, thank you for adding that in, having the key separate. Sometimes they're little spinny codes. So there's just different ways that you can do those bags. Also, a couple other pieces is immediate deposit. Do not let that money sit for very long. Get that money in there, because money not in a bank is money that can be lost. And do not lose that bag. That is one of the most terrifying things I could ever imagine, is losing that. So get it out of your hands and get it into the bank. And also that transaction list for record keeping. Come up with the best strategy that we talked about with the receipts. If you want to do an Excel sheet and you both are checking, and whoever signed off on those things. One of the best practices I used to do with a different association for money, like I would get a check, I'd write on who brought it in, the cost, and then if there was a check number. And then I would also, I would initial it, and then whoever was counting behind me would initial that receipt saying it was double checked as received. So as you're going through your receipt books, you're really doing a double check process for record keeping. And I will get back to you on the non-for-profit status, because I think we could be doing a better job for our donors on that too. Online, so I wanted to touch base on Facebook fundraising events or fundraising events online. For example, let's go with something super random. We had a fake event. We'll say that we had a tornado in Nebraska. We have those, but we didn't have, I don't have devastation to report. So this is a fake event. And say Nebraska saying, hey, Nebraska NAHN, our community was hit hard. We need money to be sent to us. How can we fundraise? Well, doing a fundraiser is great, and love it. I support us supporting our community. We absolutely need to do that. There's a couple ways of doing it. Obviously, we can run a Venmo account, but one of the cool things that we can do is with this Facebook fundraisers, you have to be careful about fundraising, because the money you take in counts towards that $50,000 revenue generation. Okay. So if you're doing a fundraiser and money comes in, even if that money is going right back out, you have to claim that as received through NAHN. And so if you're going to hit a $50,000 mark, we have a different tax form to file. And there's just other processes that it doesn't make sense if it's just you're a middleman exchanging hands, right? So if there's an event like a fundraiser event that you want to support, one of the best recommendations I would say is find the organization you want the money to go to. So say it's like a YMCA, or we have One World, which is our Hispanic clinic that is incredible in Omaha, and we want to give them money. We can actually work with them and set up a fundraiser so the money goes directly to them. That's the GoFundMe pages. They go directly to that deposit. So whoever gets the money has to deal with the taxes. I'm just trying to tell that to you. Does that make sense in terms of if you collect money to redisperse to maybe another organization, you're now responsible for those taxes. So it's important that if you don't want to be responsible, you can do other things about it. So if there's a church or a school or a different organization, if they can create the Facebook fundraiser page, then the money can go filter straight through them and it bypasses your concern. Other best practices, Amazon Smile, there's some options in there if you want to register for that. It's really great because some of the money gets donated back to your event. Venmo and Cash apps, Lita did a great job talking about this earlier. Do know with these Cash apps, you have to know who is the authorized user. Like, do not set those up like with a personal email. And if it's a personal email, you have to know other people can get in there with you. What I mean by that is, say I have my Venmo, at Carly Zagers 1. Well, there should be a non-Nebraska chapter Venmo with a different email from mine that's getting that Venmo money. And that email and password should be shared between the president and treasurer. So at any time, two different people can log in and see the transaction list and see where money's coming in and out, similar to our bank account. The same idea with any other cash apps. And that should be the same with any event registration. So if you use like Eventbrite, or you're using like a Google form to get payments, you have to have two people being able to log in to see that at any time. You can also print out transaction lists for your board report. So with like a Venmo account, if you log in online, you can actually print out your transaction history online. I know certain chapters, like Illinois chapter, is wildly successful with 50/50 raffles using Venmo, and everyone around the nation can drop in money for that. So just making sure that you're using that and tracking it very safely and well together, and not to a private account. And then finally, we talked about reporting and making sure that you have those electronic receipts printed out and available, so that we're all on the same page. All right, taxes, we talked about this. I've mentioned the tax exempt status process. We will get there, I promise, within this next year. That is a goal of mine and the finance committees, how to report the status and how to report the tax process previously described. So that will be on our next to-do list in terms of how to do that. But taxes in terms of fundraising, we will again get that figured out, how we can give a tax exemption with donations, how to report that status to the people that we're getting money from, and then also the tax process that we talked about in terms of like, if you get $50,000 for a natural disaster to redistribute, you now fall into the category of no longer being able to file a 990N, and we will have to file a full like tax process for your chapter. So making sure that you're aware of any money that comes in, you have to report. Okay. All right, prizes and giveaways. They can be donation based, which I think is number one. I definitely recommend trying to get things to get donated. Somebody can donate stethoscopes. I donated some Amazon gift cards. Donation based is the best form. Purchasing prizes and giveaways need to be part of that budget and conversation prior to showing up that day and having purchased beforehand. And then keep the receipts for those transactions, and also who got the prize. You don't have to figure out who have got the prize or whatnot, but it's also, I think it's important for larger things such as the 50/50 raffles. So a 50/50 raffle is where I pay like $5 for a ticket, and we have 100 tickets, so there's $500 available. A 50/50 raffle is we pull one ticket out of that bucket, and whoever ticket we drew gets 50% of the profits. Well, that's $250. So we really need to make sure that we have a receipt available to that and who got the money, and keep that recorded. Over a certain amount, I think it's $600 is tax, then we have to 990 somebody. Excuse me. If you give somebody money from a raffle or something, and it's over $600, you have to 1090 form that person, right? Because you're giving them a taxable amount of money. And so if you have a situation where you're making that much money, please contact us so that we can help you through that process. If you're giving a single individual that money, NAHN has a way to actually do a W-2 and bypass some of this information, and we should be able to help you with that. So please let us know if it's over a $600 prize. We have to be able to help you with that, get that tax process figured out. But keep your receipts on that. All right. Any questions about what I just talked about before I go into the last policies, and we'll get out of here early? I'm explaining it that well. I don't believe it. You guys can always email me afterwards too if you're chewing on this and trying to consume it and figure it out.